Psychoanalysis, children find mothers. Namaste. Early life experience of a child is deeply centered around experience of the mother. Mothers, as they appear to children, come in colors and flavors. Each specificity leads to different outcomes in the child's mind, and to explore this deeply buried, forgotten continent, we have with us our expert, Dr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Sir, why the way mothers are is so important for a child's development?
Psychoanalysis tells us that much of what we call the fundamentals of the personality, and that also goes into fundamentals of pathology and fundamentals of health, the foundations of it all are laid in the first 5 years of life. Some schools like Klein and Kohut will even put it to the first 3 years of life. When we look at this period of first 3 years of life, largely it is between the child and the mother. The father and others are quite distant. And therefore, what happens between the child and the mother becomes the foundation of the child's mental health, the child's personality, child's pathology, if there is any, and the healthy part of child and how to heal that child. All of it again comes back to what happened in the first 3 years or first 5 years. And that is where the mother is central to not only the personality of the child, but also pathology of the child, and also achievements and the quality of life the child experiences. So from every point, what happens between the child and the mother becomes central. Now, if we try to go slightly deeper into it and ask the question, what is it that happens between the child and the mother? Many things happen. From our point of view, what is of interest is two important elements: the experience of the world and the stability of attachment. These two are very important in terms of the primal causal elements to happen. Because what we have is a situation, you have the child's mind and you have the mother, and the two are interacting. Others come in and go out but are marginal. And in this interaction, primarily between the child's mind and the mother, the child summarizes an experience of the world. And the experience of the world of the child is largely experienced with the mother. Now, what is very important for our species is the way we are hardwired. Certain things happen in that period. The first is the experience of the world and the stability of attachment. And from these two, we draw templates which create our framework to view the world. Like, is the world a safe place? Am I lovable? Can you trust attachments? What is the outcome of attachments? Am I good enough? All this, like being with human beings, is the other sunshine or is the other the hell? So all of these templates, they come out as a result of the early child's experience of the world. So the three things which happen very early in that period are: one, the experience of the world. Is the world good? Is the world safe? Is the world predictable? Is the world encouraging? Is the world admiring? Is the world for you? Is the world against you? The primary thing. Second is the stability of attachments. And the third thing which is going on all the time is internalization. Whatever the child sees, the child internalizes. The child sees a happy, healthy, vivacious mother, he internalizes it, which forms the core of his optimism, his enthusiasm, He is always feel boisterous, gregarious, cheerful. The child sees a depressed, sad mother, he internalizes a sad mother. The child sees a attacking mother, he internalizes the attacking mother. And in the adult life, even when he is alone, these internalized figures, they start operating inside. So if the mother is very critical, very guilt provoking on every small thing, then even when the mother is not there as an adult, the person still feels the mother is inside and somebody is critical of the person doing A or B. If the mother is attacking, even when the person is alone, he feels anxious. Because the moment he does something which he feels the mother would not approve, he starts feeling anxious as though the mother is actually there and going to pounce upon him. So even when the tormenting figures are not there, if you have the internalized versions of them, then they are always there with you 24/7 wherever you go. Even after their death, they can still be there. And all of these are outcomes of what happens in early life in the process of internalization. So there are three processes which are very important. First is the stability of attachment. Two, the quality of attachment, the experience of the world, good, bad, safe, unsafe, encouraging, critical, accepting, acknowledging, or dismissing, critical or admiring, the experience of the world. So you have the stability of attachment, the qualitative experience of the world, and the third is internalization. So the three and the fourth is capacity building, which is outcome of good internalization. So these things happen very early in life, and therefore it is very important to understand what kind of a mother the child finds when he opens his eyes in the world.
So, mother is usually an adult who's already grown up, who understands world, and still, being a human, has her own set of errors and mistakes and shortcomings, while the child is yet forming. So, is it that the mother appears different to the child? It is to do with the child's perception? Is it to do with mother? What are the different colors and flavors in which mothers appear to the child?
Uh, it is a combination of both. How the mother appears to the child, that is more important than how the mother actually is. Because for the child, the perception is the fact.
True.
There is no cross-checking a perception.
Mm.
So how the mother appears to the child depends on both the constitution of the child and the real life actions of the mother. It's a combination of. Now, the second point can be, however the mother appears, how deeply and intensely does it affect the child? Now, everyone agrees that the impact is deep and lasting. But how deep and how lasting, on the degree of it, there is a difference. So if you look in psychoanalysis, you will see Winnicott and Klein, and to some extent beyond, their uh, accepting of the criticality of the mother is on the higher side.
Mm.
Like for Winnicott, the good enough mother is everything. So if you put DSM before him, he will say out of 175 sicknesses, 125 are because of good enough mothering or the lack of it. So everyone accepts the criticality of the child-mother interaction in early life for future pathology and personality, for achievement and quality of life, and for practically everything in the psychic area. But the degree varies. Like for Winnicott, Klein, and beyond, the degree is very high. For Freud and Jung, relatively speaking, the degree is slightly low. Now, coming to what you said, what colors and flavors the mothers appear to the child. And this brings us to the continuum of the types of mothers the child encounters or possibly can encounter. So we can start from very good and we can go to very bad, the whole continuum of different types of mothers. And if we look at this whole range of types of mothers, we can look at start from a very good mother, who is very happy, very vivacious, a good container, very cheerful, available, and receptive to the pre-linguistic communication of the child. A very good mother. The good mother would be what Winnicott calls a good enough mother, who occasionally fails the child. And for Winnicott, this is actually uh, so. Where was I?
You shared that Winnicott talked about this in the spectrum. If we see all the
I got it. So the
yes.
second mother was actually a good enough mother, and for Winnicott, she was actually better than a very good mother, who gives what Winnicott calls optimum frustration. Then you have a half good mother who may not have adequate femininity, who may not have capability of listening to the every projective identification that is said, who may not have certain parts of very good mother or the good mother, but still she is available, she is not attacking, she does not have a containing problem. And then you can start the not good enough mothers, and that's a much longer list, because obviously because we go in details of that list, that is our focus of interest. So the first there is the worst of it, the abandoning mother, the mother who is just not available. That's the worst, because it creates not only all the symptoms of abandonment, it not only sets on what I call the valley junction model into process, which leads to personality disorders. If from very early life you have an absent mother, you can be laying down the foundation of psychosis. It creates a lot of fragility, and later on in life, lot of somatization. The next one is a dead mother, a mother so heavily depressed that she appears as dead. And the child, because he's internalizing everything that he sees, he internalizes the dead mother also. Later on, this becomes the core of his depression. Not necessarily always, but at times it does. And also, there is a strange unconscious movement that if I remain cheerful and the mother is sad, one, it creates guilt. Two, I am not with the mother. So out of guilt and out of being with the mother, one perpetuates one's depression, because the unconscious idea is in sadness, you and I both are together forever, and only you and me. So this
So is it
unconscious,
like it's just a child observes and experiences, or there's something like transference between the mother and the child, because they have been for a newly born, it has been just like one in body and two in uh, life. So how is there something like transference there also? Even I've seen there are many mothers who are inside, they're very sad, but the children sense that sadness beyond the happy faces outside.
that is still a better situation, because then we are looking at sadness and not deadness.
Mm.
Because a part of the
Okay.
person is still able to be happy. So even if there is depression, you are talking of a minor depression, not a
Mm.
major depression. But if we have a dead mother, deeply depressed mother, who is in the grip of inertia, who is in the grip of death instinct, or very high sadness, or she herself has internalized deadness in some way, or because of the way life has been, she has
Mhm.
gone to the state of being dead inside. So that then becomes the core of deadness in the person, which is slightly different from emptiness.
Okay.
Emptiness comes more from an abandoning mother. Deadness comes from a present but dead mother.
Okay.
Because if there is nobody, you internalize emptiness. If there is a dead mother, you internalize the dead mother. If you have a healthy, vivacious mother, you internalize the healthy, vivacious mother. Then after dead mother, you have the sad mother. Oh, sorry. After the dead mother, you have deeply sad mother,
Hmm.
who is just above that deadness. After that, you have the cold mother, the refrigerator mother, where there is coldness, isolation of affect, and a frozen anger. She is hard to please, very demanding, and the child spends his lifetime trying to please the difficult to please. And in adult life, he again picks up same kind of people and repeats the same thing over and over again. And in therapy, often by projective identification, he makes the therapist feel a wall of ice, that coldness inside. And then you have the sad mother, the minor depression mother. Then you have the mother who is not uh, dead, who is not cold, who is not sad, but who cannot contain. So the one who has the containing problem mother, that the moment the child starts screaming or weeping or getting irritated, she also starts getting irritated. She cannot contain the child and give
Right.
back the confidence, the soothing to be calm. So the child never gets a chance to internalize soothing,
Hmm.
internalizes irritation and disintegration in response to irritation and disintegration.
True.
So that is the uncontained, non-containing mother. Then you have the disintegrating mother, that the mother disintegrates even without a challenge. Even without a challenge, the mother disintegrates. Then you have the inadequate mother, where the mother does not know what to do.
Hmm.
And the moment the child makes a demand, she suddenly gets into disintegration, into chaos, into anxiety. And she
Right.
needs the help of other, and therefore the child internalizes an incompetent mother.
Hmm.
And then you have the attacking mother,
Hmm.
who attacks the child. The moment the child does something demanding, or worse, even when the child does not do anything demanding. And then you have the unpredictable mother.
Hmm.
The child does not know what to do. Anytime love can come and anytime attack can come. Then you have the narcissistic mother, who
Yeah.
is demanding satisfaction of her. Then you have the histrionic mother, who is busy showing off herself and seducing others instead of looking at the child. And then you have the mother who wants fusion,
Hmm.
the not devouring mother, but the magnetic mother in the pathological sense, that there is a
Hmm.
fusing mother. And then you will have a combination of many of these things, like you can have a narcissistic, unpredictable, and fusing mother.
Right.
So this is the entire canvas of different types of mothers the child encounters, and experience of each of these mothers leads to a very different kind of personality development and a very different kind of pathology in adults.
Right. Right. So, what about the healthy mother? Is there an impact in between? You mentioned the word that optimum, it leads to optimum frustration. What it is about?
So the healthy mother is able to be present, be happy, uh, receive difficult projective identification, and give back processed positive uh, material to the
Hmm.
child. She is able to be feminine and loving, and she is able to be competent and adequate. And this cheerful, vivacious, resilient mother becomes what Klein calls a good, reliable, stable object that the child internalizes. And the more cheerful good, reliable, stable object he has internalized, more cheerful, more happy, more contented, more confident
Right.
the child feels. And therefore, this then becomes the core of his entrepreneurship, his leadership, his confidence in the world.
Mhm. And uh, is it that it needs to be there throughout the life of the child, or it is just the early years we are talking about?
It is the early years because once the mother is internalized, it stays inside.
Mm.
So then, even if physically the mother is not there, the internalization is inside, and therefore, inside she is always available.
Okay.
Now, the point is, we also talked about the constitution when we started the discussion.
Mm. Mm.
That one of the variables in the process of internalization is the envy and rage. That if the envy and rage towards the mother is very high, maybe even because of constitution,
Mhm.
not necessarily because of what the mother does, but largely because of what the mother does. So then what happens is, even if you can have a very good mother, but if there is envy and consequent rage, you don't internalize that good mother. So in exception, you will also have a group which has a very good mother but will not internalize
Mm.
out of envy and rage out of envy. But largely it will be like whatever is there, you internalize.
Usually, when we talk about constitutionally not able to internalize all good, healthy object, mostly like in psychopaths, it's usually seen.
Uh, One and second is those with very high envy, and that will involve some patients who will have dependence.
Oh,
Dependence also goes with very high envy.
is it?
Narcissism also, not
Narcissism is self-explained. Dependence,
dependence also has a lot of envy.
right? And how about an attacking mother who's unable to contain?
Uh, Unattacking mother will chip away at the ego strength.
Hmm.
This will create two different kinds of chipping away. One, if you had good experience of the mother before she started attacking, or in some way you had some alternative mother figures, but somehow you could create a cohesive self, as Kohut calls, and then the attack starts. Then you are chipping at the circumference of it. So you will have a strong ego till attack comes. And when the attack comes, there is uh, chipping away, disintegration, but only at the circumference. And when the heavy attack happens, or if there was not a period of good experience before the attack started, then the attack straight away goes to the center of the self, the center of that ego, the social ego, as I call it, and it disintegrates. And that creates an extremely fragile personality. And if it starts right from the beginning, and if constitutionally child is not very strong and does not have alternative mother figures, then we are looking at psychosis. And here the problem will be of the delusion of persecution.
What about the inadequate mother?
The inadequate mother uh, will be internalized, and what will happen is uh, it will reflect in terms of inadequacy of relationships in adult life.
Hmm.
Now, if the father also is inadequate, it will reflect in the professional life also. But if let us say the father is adequate, then the chances more are that in the professional life, you will reflect the way you internalize the father, and in the personal life, the mother. But if both are inadequate, then the confidence level goes very low unless the child is narcissistic.
Hmm.
If the child is narcissistic, then you may actually feel confident even if the both the parents are inadequate, and that narcissism is contains at a very deep level inadequacy which is covered up.
What about depressed mother?
The
Depressed mother?
depressed mother means you are perpetuating a depression. So two things happen. If you internalize and other things are not there to internalize and the constitution is not so good, and if life experiences are not good, then that core develops into depression later on. As I said, there are two parts of it. One is the guilt of leaving the mother by being happy. So there is a guilt related to being happy. And second,
Yes.
losing the mother by being happy. That I want to be with the mother in her sadness, and in sadness we'll both be together in one sphere of sadness.
Hmm.
That I and you together and no one else. So there the depression is defended against, because the depression then becomes a defense against abandonment,
Independent.
defense against guilt. So this is one part. The second part is, okay, let us say somebody has internalized being something cheerful. Then
Hmm.
he gets obsessed with taking care of the depressed,
Hmm.
like he does for his mother. And that is Winnicott's story.
Okay.
So Winnicott had to look after his depressed mother for a long time. And he wrote a very famous statement. He said, "To keep her alive became my living." And that can happen to people, that they get too involved in looking after the sad and the depressed. It can take any
Sometimes
turn.
even the mothers involve the children. Children, as you said, fuse mother. This is like a semi extension of oneself. They expect their children to fix them or substitute for the father or the husband of hers. And there, that the child picks up the duty unknowingly to keep the mother active, alive, happy.
Right. So the fused mothers, they essentially have an abandonment problem in their own early life.
Hmm.
And they fuse because that's the way they believe not to lose somebody. And there is also can be a narcissism to control somebody completely. And therefore they fuse. And then depending on what are the other characteristics of the mother, the play plays out. You
Hmm.
have a mother who is fusing but is narcissistic.
Yeah.
You can have a mother who is fusing but is histrionic. You can have a mother who is dependent and fusing.
Hmm.
And all of them create very different outcomes. A histrionic mother fusing with the child, if the child is a woman, she will most likely make her a heroine or a model. A dependent mother fusing with her child will, in all probability, use the child for the satisfaction of some narcissistic person she worships.
The child becomes an extreme empath and a people pleaser.
Because the child has to please the mother, and for that, the child has to please the narcissist. Because the mother is pleased only if the narcissist is pleased. And the mother cannot live without a narcissist. And the child and the mother are fused together. So the child, in order to please the mother and not lose the mother, has to please the narcissist. And the narcissist gets two women to exploit. Or if it's a man situation, the narcissist gets two men to exploit. Now, if you have a narcissistic uh, bipolar person
Hmm.
fused with a child, in all probability, she will produce another bipolar. If you have a histrionic, or let us say a hysterical mother who fuses with a child and is extremely aggressive and attacking without any containing capacity, in all probability, the child will be borderline. So the fate of the man is considerably decided in those early years before you are capable of thinking anything or knowing anything. So it is fate which probably determines what kind of mother you find in the world and what is your constitution.
what about those mothers who are withholding and manipulative?
They create a very different dynamic that I have, but I will not give. And I will manipulate you, and only after adequate manipulation, I will give, or occasionally I will just use you. And you have to allow that manipulation to happen if you don't want loss or attack.
This is different from, it includes narcissist mother, but others also.
So we are looking at a combination of narcissism and sociopathy.
Yeah.
So we are looking at a narcissistic sociopathic mother who is fusing to manipulate, or even not fusing, but is just manipulating.
Mm.
So then the child is just desperate to please, and the child is trying to save oneself, or often willingly submits to that manipulation. And after that, when the child grows up, a strange kind of relationship develops. That the mother is constantly trying to manipulate, the child is trying to save oneself to the extent he can, but he cannot openly say, "Don't manipulate me, I'm not going to do it." And then either the child internalizes it and he starts manipulating others, or everything piles up inside of him. And the aggression either goes towards some victim or it somatizes inside. So this is a very, very difficult situation of a manipulating mother, hard to place mother.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, please go on.
Sir, what about the cold and refrigerator mother?
This is another type of withholding, but this is not manipulative withholding, this is natural. We have what is called the refrigerator mother. And in that refrigerator mother, you have the child is just desperate for warmth and acceptance. So we have a cold mirror who does not mirror back anything. We have an ice mirror, so to say. And the child will experience an entire range of mirroring failures.
Mm.
Child will be desperate for all the 5 A's: acknowledgement, attention, acceptance, affection, admiration. All the 5 A's, the child will be desperate to get it. So the mother will be present, she will not be absent. She will not explicitly attack, but it is an attack of coldness, a different kind of an attack. It's an attack of omission, not of commission. And the child internalizes it, and then lifelong the child is in search of warmth, or the child is terrified of warmth.
Mm.
That he needs warmth, but is terrified of it because he has no experience of it. And for him, that can also mean loss of the mother. That so far as he's with old people and has coldness inside, he is still with the mother.
Seen many times, mothers are not cold, but due to the successive births without much of the gap between two children, immediately getting pregnant after the first, the mothers become unavailable due to the biological changes and the overburdening. And sometimes they treat the little 1.5, 2 year old as an elder brother sister who has to serve the baby along with the mother. Again, there is a fusing mother. So there they become very indifferent to this little toddler, but just because the new one has arrived. And the mother is very warm towards the other one, and the child perceives the mother as cold mother.
More than cold, he experiences a loss, and that results in sibling rivalry.
Hmm. But I have seen even they find it very difficult to receive warmth. Those children are very easy to give away warmth to others because they have always been in their motherly instinct,
Correct.
serving the mother and the baby sister, brother, whosoever.
Correct. So they become prematurely mature.
That's very cruel.
Right? They become prematurely mature, and they create what Winnicott calls a false self. That's the only way to adapt to the environment. They don't have choice. So in order to avoid the loss and attack, and everything that is involved with them, they have no choice but to be the mother's assistant. And they have no choice but to hide all the difficult feelings of sibling rivalry and put on the best face in front of somebody they viscerally hate. So they are forced to love somebody for whom they have a death wish.
True.
And that creates the difference that the true self wants to kill him and the false self wants to love him. And they live it out. And this goes on for a very long time. And this group becomes, as adults, finds it very difficult to prioritize themselves and think of pleasure for themselves. They are constantly thinking of others. And they have lost the capacity or even the habit of prioritizing themselves. So if they earn 100 rupees, they will think of how to spend it on 5 people, but they don't include themselves. So the self-denial, self-dismissal, it becomes natural to this group. So this is a group which is all responsibility, all duty, and no beauty.
Mm-hmm.
They have learned to dismiss themselves. And they have learned to do things for others so that the mother is happy.
So, how far does it go for a betraying mother?
That creates a very different dynamic
Mm-hmm.
because it also brings in the qualitative aspect of betrayal. Sibling rivalry, as we said, that is one form of betrayal. The Oedipal betrayal is a second form of betrayal. And the mother having an affair with somebody else is a very different kind of betrayal. That is Sherlock Holmes. If you look at Sherlock Holmes from this psychoanalytic point, we psychoanalyze Scandal in Bohemian.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, when we looked at Sherlock Holmes's character, we see that he is on the side of law and not against law, which tells us about a strong superego internalized from the father. But at the same time, he is extremely suspicious of the women. Dr. Watson writes at one point that for him, women were never the object of love or interest. Women were always the object of investigation
Mm.
as motivators for crime, as reasons for revealing something one should not reveal otherwise, as motives for crime, as the perpetrators of crime, as the femme fatale. So that was his idea of the woman, except one, uh, Irina Adler. In the entire series of Sherlock Holmes, he always refers to her as that woman. And he keeps one photograph of her.
Mm.
So except that woman, they were always objects which leads to clues, which is motive for murder or something of that sort. So that there we see combination of early life abandonment and betrayal by the mother. So that would raise high degree of suspiciousness related to women and often the hatred of women. And we should not be surprised if we find these two groups, the early life abandonment group, the attack group, and the betrayal group, into BDSM.
Mm.
Because in a way, in the unconscious, there's quite some hatred and aggression towards the female.
Coming to the fused and unpredictable mothers, how does that play out?
It's a recipe for borderline and bipolar. Just as the dismissing mother is a recipe for histrionicity, available and dismissing, or at times not available and dismissing. Similarly, the fused and narcissistic, fused and unpredictable, it's a recipe for bipolar. The other condition being the child has to be sensitive, because the child never knows when the mother goes bipolar and when she attacks, so the child does not know, for the same thing the child is appreciated, and after 3 days for the same thing the child is attacked, and it's completely unpredictable. There's no logic of the attack or love, and the child learns to live with this unpredictable irrational world, and
Mm.
the child does not internalize calibration of emotions. So when the happiness happens, it just goes up. When the sadness happens, it just goes down. And of course, it is aided by very strong life and death instincts. So there is a biological element to it also. And you can also look at biological characteristics to see it. The people who are very, very strong bodies and have bipolar are more likely to have bipolar 1. And those
Mm.
with extremely delicate bodies more likely to have bipolar 2. And both of them have had narcissistic, fused, and unpredictable mother or father or both. That is one. Second, if in early life you had a good, stable experience and then this unpredictability is seen, again, the chances are more of bipolar. But if right from early days you see this unpredictability and attack, and you had never had a good, reliable, stable experience to start with, the more likely is bipolar, sorry, borderline.
Borderline.
So borderline is far more fragile than the bipolar.
How does it play out in ordinary life?
In ordinary life, either people look out for the type of mothers they've experienced, or the opposite of it, or the ideal form of it. And this search continues for a very long time. People find it in the form of religious gurus. People find it in the form of celebrities. People find it in the form of teachers. People find it in the form of mentors. People even find it in the form of relatives or neighbors. So that is one. Second, transference happens. So for no
Mm.
reason they can hate or love somebody. For no reason they can do something for somebody and not do something for somebody. For some reason they can reward somebody in the workplace, and for no reason they can punish somebody in the workplace.
Mm.
Their interpretation of somebody's thoughts and actions can also be colored by it. And in relationship and at workplace, it plays out completely. And if the person has a pathology, then of course the whole play is florid.
That takes me to so many aspects where we see in organizations what is happening in different fields, like in Bollywood. And we just wonder at times, as laymen, that people are, bullying others, or people are trying to bring some kind of, uh, torturous things to others.
Right.
So, how does it all play out in pathology, DSM or otherwise?
Very florid. In the sense, you can say a majority of pathology, at least say between 50 to 55% at least, will have a component. I'm talking of chronic pathology, not acute pathology. So in chronic pathology, at least a majority, say 60%, will have traces of this early life thing. Entire chapter of personality disorders, you can see it. Entire chapter of psychosis, you can see it. The major depression, bipolar 1, bipolar 2, severe forms of addiction, severe forms of erectile dysfunction, severe forms of anxiety, anything that is chronic and resistant to medication. Across chapters of DSM, you can see the effect of early life mothering. In fact, Winnicott would converge 75% of DSM into good enough mothering. But even if you don't take that strong view, you can still see 60% of chronic pathology as having a strong element of it in the whole constellation. And
That's a,
psychoanalytically, if you look at it, it will go even further, because there will be many people who may not get diagnosed according to criteria of DSM, but still would have suffering.
that brings me an idea about what if there was no psychodynamics or psychoanalysis and just behavioral understanding and the other schools. Forget about the therapy and the healing part. Would the DSM sound like what it is today?
Uh, in a way, yes, but we will have to take a detour from DSM-3,
Hmm.
because DSM-1 and 2 were based upon psychoanalysis. In case we believe that psychoanalysis was not there, probably they would have been based upon something else, CBT or DBT or whatever, REBT or whatever was there, because 1 and 2 were not a theoretical. They were based upon some school. So if not psychoanalysis, they would be based upon something else. 3 onwards, they took a stand, okay, we will be a theoretical and we will be based only on clinical observations. We will not
Hmm.
go into the causality or the prescription. We will only go on description.
Hmm.
So it is description, not prescription. So because from 3, the framework is the same. 3, 4, 5, 5 TR, the framework is the same,
Hmm.
that you are a theoretical. So
Hmm.
because it's a theoretical, it will still be as it is till it is a theoretical.
Hmm.
Future, if it takes a turn towards some theory, then it will come in what turn it takes. And if that happens, I will not be surprised if they take a turn to something other than psychoanalysis. CBT will be a far more likely candidate,
Okay.
and that would be a disaster.
How unknowingly we try to heal ourselves if we have the mother wound.
Uh, in many ways, we try to find out gurus, we try to find out mentors, we dream about our teachers, we find out historical figures, celebrities, and we do it in a variety of ways. Either we try to substitute difficult experiences with good ones, or we try to forget the difficult ones, or we search of somebody opposite to what we had, or we try to heal by catharsis, or we try to heal by search of an ideal figure we had in mind. So these are various ways in which we play out. We may also seek partners of that type that can help us in healing the wound. We may look out for therapists, and this may even take more than one therapist. Like Don Carveth mentions in one of his talks that it was only with the third therapist that he could actually speak out what he wanted to speak out. He never felt so safe or with the first two therapists. And he was referring to a wound of this type, an early life parent wound. So we may even have to go to multiple therapists to finally feel somewhere safe that we can come back to this wound. But it's not difficult to find it because it forces itself upon you. You cannot avoid it the way it works out in you and the cost that you pay for it. One thing is very clear ki this kind of wounds are chronic, they take very long to heal, and you pay enormous price before you heal it. And often the price is irreversible. Like many people heal it in their 40s, and by that time much of life is gone. There's nothing to turn the clock back.
Even I think the religious figures like different devis, they are the archetypes of the idol mothers, which assist throughout the journeys of people, where they can, deposit all the desires to have an omnipotent, good, stable mother. But what if there is a denial of her as well?
Denial of
Denial of the idol mother also.
uh, there is still a way out. Like, if there is a loss and there is a denial of the ideal mother, it's a real difficulty. But if we are looking at an attack wound,
Mm-hmm.
and if the primary problem is of fear of the omnipotent bad mother,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't even need an ideal one, because then the more horrible forms of the mother, in which are worshipped in the tantric and the aghori ways, they can be used for gradual desensitization. Like many of the depictions of goddesses in India in the Hindu spirituality are very terrible. But if you keep the picture with you and if you get into the process of idol worship, then
Right.
after some time, you don't feel them horrible, but worship and love actually flows towards them,
Mm.
regardless of the horror they represent.
Mm.
That is one way to overcome an early life bad mother, where you not only overcome it, but you develop that capacity of unconditional flow of love in the face of fear, in the face of terror.
Does holistic healing have anything to offer for the early story of the mothers?
Uh, yes, but before that, let me just come to the therapy part of it before I go to the holistic healing part.
Mm.
How does this come up in therapy? This finding different types of mothers, and especially difficult mothers. The first thing it comes up is we are looking at chronic resistant pathology.
Mm.
Second, it gets played up in transference. Third, there is difficulty of catharsis related to anger towards the mother.
Mm.
Fourth, there is a difficulty of getting free from the fusion. Fifth, there is a fear of closeness to the therapist. Sixth,
Mm.
there is projective identification of early life, coldness, abandonment, fragility, anxiety into the therapist. Seventh, there is a very difficult testing of the therapist.
Mm.
Eighth, there is a doubt and concern if the therapist can hold those difficult feelings. And often there is a testing of those that containing capacity.
True.
Ninth is long work is required for overcoming fragility before the emotional flow can happen, and
Mm.
quite some resistance work has to be done. The 10th is deployment of the ineffable O, that technique of beyond gives good results.
Mm.
And you have to do holding for quite a long term before you can actually bring in interpretation. And then you can bring in confrontation and challenge. So this is how it comes up in therapy. And in fact, it's quite common because most of the chronic cases that we see always bring in the mother into discussion. In fact, uh, it goes to the extent that often we feel, is there anything other than the mother to be discussed?
True.
Because most of the times the discussion goes back to the mother. And
Even strangely, there were the days in the therapy where people would omit fathers. Nowadays, people are omitting mothers.
correct.
uh, just the way father was unemotional, emotionally not available. Similarly, the mothers have started becoming way too cold and distant. So there is so much of omission of mothers these days in the therapy space.
Also, because this whole idea of the working mother, that doubles this problem. Because the moment the mother becomes a working mother, she becomes very much like the father. So that whole difference between the mother and the father that our generation experienced is no longer experienced. So the mother is becoming more and more like the father. So the father used to be omitted, and now the mother is to be omitted for the same reason that the father was omitted. That the mother has become like the
Mm.
father, and therefore both are omitted. So therapy, uh, we always have to bring in that whole mother element, and the split is open. And this is one of the last things to go. And often you can have very long dependence on the therapist. And the therapist has to be sane enough and capable enough to control the counter transference. It's very easy to get carried away by counter transference. So it definitely comes up in therapy in these ways. And we have to do a lot of things to heal the mother wound in therapy by analysis, by catharsis, by containing, by the ineffable O, uh, by talking in then and there, at times talking here and now, by interpreting the transference, by interpreting the projective identification, by encouragement, by resistance work, and facilitating catharsis, and lastly, encouraging the person to build up oneself and believe in oneself. And then the person is ready for the individuation process. So this is how it goes in therapy. Now coming to what you said about holistic healing.
Before we go there, I
Ah,
just have an analogy layer that therapy space is like again breastfeeding the child because they get the bliss at the good breast again, and then you gradually wean them off. But again, too early, same wound is recreated.
correct, correct. And that is where the termination of therapy is a very important element. Somebody with an abandonment issue can again interpret it as second abandonment.
Yes.
And then the question comes, at what time, till what time you will go on? Because if the wound is not healing and the person is not ready to really sincerely and resolutely go inside, then the guilt comes up on the part of the therapist. How long will I take money and how long will it go on? Because then the person is in a tragic holding state, which is an addictive state. Or it can be something other than the tragic holding state, but an addictive comfort zone.
But still, it is very beautifully played out if the therapist is very well aware and see that, that there is a journey of the therapy and the patient or the client. Sometimes I get this feel that no, now they are 5 year old and this is what the role of the therapist changes. A lot of dependency is taken away while they're individualizing. At the same time, just the way a mother or father of a 5 year old would behave or a 16-year-old would. So there are different stages they re-enter, and the mother and father are always there. Similarly, they keep on reaching to the therapist, not periodically in the therapy space, but more of a healing, holistic space where they reach out and share their joys and sorrows with for a little brief time, and
Correct.
they
So
grow, individuate eventually.
true, that is true. I would repeat what I don't recollect the name, but there is a very good psychoanalyst from South America, and he recounted somebody else's statement that most people go out of therapy far more healed and responsible than they came into therapy. The second part is about uh, the the long period of healing and the internalization of therapies. Now, one thing that is important is everything traumatic will be replayed in therapy. The difference will be here the therapist who is a significant other does not act the way the real life significant other acted or still
Correct.
acts. And that is what makes a very important difference. That the person experiences completely new thing for the first time. That he does A, B, and C, and it does not bring the response D. It brings a far more healthier response in. And this he learns that the same thing can bring different responses, and that is very important for healing. Now, coming to what you said, the holistic healing part. The holistic healing part has a lot of things for this. For example, the entire range of Tantra and Aghora using idol worship as idol therapy. So if you have a fear of attack, you go for a very fearsome, attacking, brutal mother and start the process of worship. And with gradual desensitization and neutralization of the death instinct by life instinct, many other processes, you overcome it. You have an abandonment issue, you internalize it by worshipping an ideal good mother. Third, uh, you need two or three different types of internalizations. You do two or three different kind of idol worships. 1 year for one, or 6 months for one idol, 6 months for other, 6 months for the third. This is uh, second. We see beyond idol worship, idol therapy. We see it in homeopathy. We see there are some very good medicines for these early life issues. If you go to the periodic table of the minerals, you can find them on the left hand top corner or in the first column. Some of them are very useful. Same for the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom in homeopathy. You can find some good remedies. In pranic healing, there are ways of dealing with energy which is blocked up in this early life event. Not that it's always successful, but it gives some relief. It gives some relief in pranic healing. So what we are looking at is idol therapy, we are looking at homeopathy, we are looking at pranic healing, and we also look at some forms of crystal healing, some forms of hypnotherapy, some forms of psychodrama, and all this create a basket of holistic healing. We also look at yoga, and
Right.
this creates a basket of holistic healing tools to take care of these early wounds. But one of the most powerful is the idol therapy, which is accompanied by visualization, by internalization, by the stages of idol therapy, what we call uh, the tadrupta, tanmayata, and lay, all those stages of idol therapy accompanied
Right.
by the mythological stories. So all of this and some more are holistic healing tools to look at it, to help the way we proceed in therapy and the way we proceed in life in general to heal these early life wounds. Because anyone who has these wounds, to him it's not even a question. He has no choice but to prioritize and focus on healing these wounds.
Lighting up the well, finding a world of knowledge on the obvious. Hope you all liked it. See you all again. Namaste.
Namaste.